Do you know what breaks a good man? Most people would answer that question incorrectly. They would point to hard work, financial pressure, endless responsibilities, or even failure. They would assume that the things capable of breaking a man are the obvious challenges that everyone can see. After all, life can be demanding. Men are expected to carry responsibilities, solve problems, provide security, and remain strong even when circumstances become difficult. From the outside, it seems logical to believe that these burdens are what eventually wear a man down. Yet the truth is often very different. Many good men can endure extraordinary amounts of pressure. They can work long hours for years without complaint. They can survive financial setbacks, personal disappointments, and seasons of uncertainty. They can continue showing up for their families even when they feel exhausted. They can face failure, learn from it, and keep moving forward. What surprises many people is that these visible struggles are rarely what break them. Instead, the deepest wounds are often invisible. They are the quiet emotional injuries that develop behind closed doors, the disappointments that are never discussed, and the hurts that are carried silently, because many men have been conditioned to believe they should endure pain without expressing it. The tragedy is that these wounds are often overlooked until they have already done significant damage. By the time the signs become noticeable, a man may have already started withdrawing emotionally. He may have become quieter, less expressive, and less engaged with the people around him. To outsiders, it may appear that he has changed for no reason. In reality, his silence is often telling a story that his words never did. One of the most painful experiences a good man can face is feeling respected everywhere except at home. Respect is not simply about admiration or authority. At its core, respect is about feeling valued as a human being. It is about knowing that your thoughts matter, your efforts are recognized, and your presence is appreciated. For many men, respect carries enormous emotional weight because it directly influences how they perceive their role within a relationship. Imagine a man who spends his days solving problems, meeting obligations, and carrying responsibilities. Throughout the day, he interacts with coworkers, friends, clients, and even strangers who treat him with basic courtesy and appreciation. His efforts are acknowledged, his contributions are recognized, and his opinions are considered valuable. Then he returns home expecting warmth, understanding, and connection, only to encounter criticism, impatience, or indifference. Slowly, he begins to notice something troubling. The kindness that is freely given to others seems unavailable to him. The patience shown to strangers disappears when dealing with him. The appreciation he receives in the outside world becomes absent in the place where he longs for it most. At first, this may seem like a minor issue. After all, everyone has stressful days and occasional moments of frustration. However, when a pattern develops in which a man consistently feels undervalued within his own home, the emotional impact becomes profound. He begins questioning whether his sacrifices are noticed. He wonders whether his efforts matter. Over time, a subtle distance starts to form, not because he has stopped caring, but because he feels unseen. Respect is not a luxury that strengthens relationships when convenient. It is one of the essential pillars that keeps emotional connection alive. Without it, even strong relationships begin to weaken. Closely connected to this wound is another painful experience, feeling replaced in his own family. There are few emotions more discouraging than feeling unnecessary in a place where you have invested so much of yourself. Many men dedicate years of their lives to building stability, security, and opportunity for the people they love. They willingly sacrifice personal comforts, personal ambitions, and countless hours of their time because they believe their efforts are contributing to something meaningful. What they often hope for in return is not applause or constant praise, but the reassurance that their presence genuinely matters. Unfortunately, some men gradually begin to feel as though they have become invisible. Decisions are made without considering their perspective. Their advice is dismissed before it is even heard. Their contributions are expected rather than appreciated. Little by little, They start to feel less like valued members of the family and more like functional tools whose primary purpose is to provide support. The difference between being needed and being valued is enormous. A person can be useful without feeling loved. A person can fulfill responsibilities without feeling emotionally connected. When a man starts to believe that his role is limited to what he provides rather than who he is, a deep sense of loneliness begins to grow. What makes this wound especially painful is that it often develops quietly. No major argument announces its arrival. No dramatic event signals the change. Instead, it emerges through countless small moments in which a man's presence seems less important than it once was. Over time, those moments accumulate until he begins to feel like an outsider in the very home he helped create. Another burden that slowly breaks good men is the expectation that they must always be the ones to make peace. Healthy relationships require compromise, humility, and forgiveness from both sides. Disagreements are inevitable whenever two people share their lives together. However, problems arise when one person consistently carries the responsibility of repairing every conflict. Many men find themselves apologizing not necessarily because they are wrong, but because they are exhausted. They are tired of arguments. They are tired of tension. They are tired of being caught in cycles of conflict that seem endless. Eventually, maintaining peace becomes more important than defending their own feelings. At first, this may appear noble. Choosing peace over pride can certainly be a sign of maturity. The problem emerges when peace is achieved at the expense of one person's emotional well-being. Imagine carrying a heavy weight every day. In the beginning, the burden seems manageable. Over time, however, the strain becomes noticeable. Eventually, the weight becomes exhausting. Emotional responsibility functions in much the same way. When one person is always expected to absorb tension, overlook hurt feelings, and repair every disagreement, emotional fatigue becomes unavoidable. The consequences are often subtle. A man may continue saying the right things and doing the right things, but internally, he begins feeling drained. The relationship starts to feel less like a partnership and more like a responsibility he must constantly manage. While he may continue fulfilling his obligations, the emotional energy that once fueled his enthusiasm begins to fade. This is not because he no longer cares. It is because he has been carrying too much for too long. Equally damaging is the experience of having private struggles become public conversations. Trust is one of the most valuable gifts people can offer one another. It creates emotional safety. It allows vulnerability to exist. It gives people permission to reveal fears, insecurities, and weaknesses without fear of judgment. For many men, opening up emotionally is not something that happens easily. When they choose to share their struggles, it often represents a significant act of trust. Imagine confiding in someone about your deepest fears, only to discover later that those personal conversations have become topics of discussion among friends, family members, or other outsiders. The issue is not simply that information was shared. The deeper issue is that trust was violated. Something that felt private and sacred was treated casually. The emotional safety that once existed suddenly disappears. When this happens, many men respond by becoming more guarded. They stop sharing their concerns. They stop discussing their fears. They stop expressing vulnerabilities. From the outside, it may appear that they have become emotionally distant. In reality, they are protecting themselves from experiencing the same disappointment again. Every healthy relationship requires trust, and trust cannot survive without discretion. People need to know that their weaknesses will be protected rather than exposed. Once that confidence is lost, rebuilding it can take years. Yet perhaps the most painful wound of all is when home no longer feels like home. Every person needs a place where they can rest emotionally. Life is challenging enough without having to constantly defend yourself against stress, criticism, and emotional tension. Home is supposed to provide relief from those pressures. It is supposed to be the place where people feel accepted, supported, and understood. However, there are times when that sense of peace slowly disappears. Affection becomes less frequent. Meaningful conversations become rare. Small disagreements create lasting tension. Laughter fades. Emotional warmth declines. Eventually, a man begins to notice that the place where he once found comfort now feels emotionally exhausting. This transformation rarely happens overnight. Instead, it develops gradually through countless small interactions. A lack of appreciation here, a dismissive comment there, a broken promise, an unresolved conflict, a missed opportunity to connect. Individually, these moments may seem insignificant. Collectively, they can completely change the emotional atmosphere of a relationship. What makes this wound so devastating is that it attacks one of humanity's deepest needs: belonging. Everyone wants to feel welcomed where they are loved. Everyone wants to feel safe where they are vulnerable. When home ceases to provide those feelings, a person naturally begins to withdraw. They may spend more time alone. They may become quieter. They may appear emotionally detached. The mistake many people make is assuming that this withdrawal happens because the person no longer cares. More often, it happens because caring has become painful. This leads to an important realization about many good men. Most do not openly discuss these wounds. They do not complain constantly. They do not seek sympathy. They do not announce their suffering to the world. Instead, they continue fulfilling their responsibilities while carrying emotional burdens that nobody sees. They continue working, providing, supporting, and protecting, even when they feel misunderstood. The result is that their pain often remains hidden until it begins affecting their behavior. The quiet man at the dinner table may not be angry. He may be hurt. The husband who no longer shares his thoughts may not be indifferent. He may feel unheard. The father who seems emotionally distant may not have stopped caring. He may simply feel disconnected from the people he loves most. Silence is often misunderstood because people focus on the absence of words rather than the experiences that created that silence. For this reason, strong relationships require more than love alone. They require consistent appreciation. They require respect during disagreements. They require trust during difficult conversations. They require both people to feel valued, heard, and emotionally safe. Relationships flourish when both partners actively protect the connection rather than assuming it will survive on its own. At the end of the day, what breaks a good man is rarely the hardship he faces in public. It is the emotional pain he experiences in private. It is feeling disrespected where he longs to be appreciated. It is feeling invisible where he longs to matter. It is carrying responsibilities without support. It is losing trust where trust should be strongest. And most painfully, it is feeling unwelcome in the place that should feel most like home. The saddest part is that many of these wounds are preventable. Sometimes all it takes is genuine appreciation, a thoughtful conversation, a moment of understanding, a willingness to listen without judgment, a conscious effort to protect trust and maintain respect. These simple actions may seem small, but they have the power to strengthen relationships in ways that grand gestures never can. Because the deepest pain is not always expressed through anger. It is not always expressed through arguments. More often, it is expressed through distance. And by the time that distance becomes visible, a good man may have been carrying those wounds for far longer than anyone realized. If there is one lesson to remember, it is this: never underestimate the importance of making the people you love feel respected, valued, trusted, and appreciated. Those simple gifts may be the very things that keep a good person from breaking.